Hello there, good morning. I hope you're great. You had a lovely night and of course you've kick-started your day on a high. Welcome to News Diary. I'm Ashley Mazuri. We will be traversing the different parts of the country trying to figure out what exactly should we expect news-wise today. We will be having Grace Nganga, who will be on the political beat. She'll be telling us what to expect in the political diary. Alan Ochanda will be joining us from Kakamega shortly to tell us what is happening on that side. And equally, Dalmas Sakali in Nakuru County. And not forgetting Asha Fox will be telling us what's happening online. Let's get started, and we begin with Dalmas Sakali, who is joining us live from Nakuru. Now, I understand the Deputy Governor's retreat is expected to conclude today. It is day 2. Let's now link up with Dalmas Sakali. Sakali, good morning. A lot of expectations coming out of that retreat. What should we expect?
Good morning. Today marks the second day of the Governors and Deputy Governors retreat in Naivasha, of course, Nakuru County. And of course, later on, as I've already mentioned, the retreat will be ending today by a press statement from the governors, of course, led by the Council of Governors Chair, Kirinyaga Governor Anwar Iguru, and of course the other governors and deputy governors who are attending the retreat that is taking place in Naivasha today. But of course several issues, and it is important to even begin from the point of this retreat is themed around public finance procurement and human resource management in counties, what works. Of course the retreat avails an opportunity for governors, deputy governors and other stakeholders to comprehensively address the concerns and questions around public finance management and public service. It is also important to note that several issues have come up. We're talking about 7, 8 or 9 issues that have come up. Of course, all these issues revolving around devolution, from perennial delay on disbursement of funds from the National Treasury, of course, to support devolution. That is the funds that are supposed to come from the National Treasury to the various devolved units. Of course, that is a huge discussion that has, of course, bedeviled devolution for several years now, of course, since the inception of devolution. And of course, there is also an issue around executive orders, revoking of executive orders that kind of claw back the steps that have been made in devolution and, of course, going forward as regards devolution. And of course, there is also the issue of anchoring the Council of Governors Secretariat in law so as to ensure that it is getting funding from the government and of course the necessary support from government. And of course there is also an issue around the review of laws, policies and regulations on water, health, agriculture and other devolved units, and of course finalizing the transfer of devolved functions. I remember yesterday the various governors who spoke to the media were talking about some of the devolved units that have not yet been completely devolved from the national government to county governments, and of course health being a good example. And even some governors actually calling for complete devolution of the health sector, citing cases where functions have been devolved to the county governments, but resources, and in this case of course funds, are still at the Afya House. And of course additional funding to counties to at least 35% of the national revenue, a huge discussion. Of course during campaigns we saw for example the Kenya Kwanza Alliance campaigning and promising to ensure that the national funding to counties would be increased to 35%. Of course that is a huge discussion that is taking place in Naivasha, even as governors and deputy governors are having their 2-day retreat. And of course there is the issue of fast tracking of governors' pension, and of course without mentioning pending bills. This has also been a huge discussion. At some point the 4th President of the Republic of Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta, gave an order that all pending bills should be paid, but of course that is something that has not been done, and of course it's making up a huge part of the discussion that is taking place in Naivasha in this governors and deputies governors retreat. Of course the issue of wage bill. We've seen some of the governors who've been elected for the first time dealing with ghost workers and saying that is a huge challenge that is affecting devolution and affecting counties, that counties are spending a lot on recurrent expenditure as opposed to development expenditure, and of course ghost workers being a huge challenge to most of these county governments. So of course we'll be following up these, and that even reminds me to mention that even as we are talking about pending bills, a review report indicates that in the 2021-2022 budget, we are talking about an accumulated pending bills amounting to 153.02 billion shillings. Of course, 157.68 billion shillings being with the county executive, and around 1.34 billion shillings being with the county assemblies. So of course, we'll be keen to see what the Council of Governors today will be talking about. But in a nutshell, we expect them to address some of those issues that I've just mentioned that are making up a huge discussion in this retreat that will be ending today. Of course, the retreat, the two-day retreat began yesterday. So we'll be traveling right away from here, Nakuru City, to actually head to Naivasha. And of course, we'll keep our listeners and viewers posted on what will be happening across the day in day 2 of the Governors and Deputy Governors retreat that is taking place in Naivasha, of course, Nakuru County. So from here, Nakuru County, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dalma Sakali, for that. Of course, we'll touch base with you at around 10 a.m. when you reach Naivasha, and we shall see what exactly and what else is being discussed. Of course, that is Dalma Sakali. He's just telling us about the Governors and Deputy Governors retreat. It is day 2 and it is happening in Naivasha. A number of issues are expected to be discussed concerning devolution and the functioning of our counties in general. Now, from Nakuru, I want us to come back to Nairobi, specifically our I&M studios, where Grace Nganga is now ready for us. She will be telling us what exactly we should be expecting in the political side. Grace, good morning. What should we expect?
Well, a very good morning to you, Ashley. And today, from the political side, we're expecting much from Parliament, that is both houses, the National Assembly and the Senate. When it comes to the National Assembly, what you're expecting is that the East Africa Legislative Assembly is supposed to have a joint committee just to know which members are going to represent the country in that particular assembly. And of course, the MPs already have fronted 7 names that are going to be part of that joint committee. And also the Senate is also expected to give names. The committee is expected to have 14 members, that is 7 from the National Assembly and 7 from the Senate. But of course, for the National Assembly, they've already fronted the 7 names. Among them is nominated Member of Parliament, that is Sabina Chege, who will also be part of the 7 members that are going to, of course, know who next is going to represent the country in that particular sector. Just aside from that, of course, the members of the National Assembly, that is MPs, are also expected to go on a short recess that is going to, start from tomorrow all the way to the 24th of this month. That particular period is just to ensure, or just to give space for the appointment committee that is chaired by National Assembly Speaker, that is Moses Wetangula, just to ensure that they go through the vetting process of the 22 nominated members of the cabinet for President William Ruto. That exercise is expected to kick off any day from next week, and the members of, or rather MPs, are going for a short recess of 2 weeks just to pave way for that particular exercise. When we move over to the other house, that is the Senate, they are expected today to approve names of various members that are going to be part of various key committees of the Senate. And maybe, Ashley, if I can just name a few of the names that are going to be approved, is the members that are going to serve in the Procedure and Rules Committee, the names that are going to serve in the Powers and Privilege Committee, the names that are going to serve in standing committees of the Senate, as well as the names that are going to serve in the County Public Accounts Committee, County Public Investments Committee, that is Park and Peak, and the Special Funds Committee. Of course, these are some of the key committees of the Senate, and these names they have already been tabled to the Speaker of the Senate, that is Amason Kingi. Later on in the afternoon, that is 2:30 p.m., the names are going to be, taken over to the floor of the House, where the members are expected to either approve or reject these particular names. That is what is going to happen in Parliament today. Now, outside Parliament, the PS interviews are ongoing. This is day 2. Remember, this is an exercise that is going to take place for the next just now 8 days to go. Remember, the exercise is supposed to take place for 2 days. Yesterday, we had the first 59 slots, including that is the former nominated member of parliament, David Sankok, who was also part of the team that was interviewed yesterday for the principal secretary positions. Now, aside that, we're also going to be looking at the position of the cabinet administrative secretaries, that is the CAS, that of course yesterday brought in some, like most of, if I could say, a difference, because the Public Service Commission had already, notified the members of the public of the ongoing application. But of course, the court, had to hold that particular process for what they say the case is still ongoing in court, and the PSC has to wait for the determination of that particular ruling so that they can know whether the CAS position is actually lawful. Remember, in the 12th Parliament, or rather in the President Uhuru Kenyatta's regime, the court had ruled that particular position, the CAS position, is irregular or unlawful. So, of course, we are going to be looking into that and see where it stands from that. Basically, that is all we have from the political diary. Ashley?
All right, Grace, just stay with me a bit. Remember, there was that petition that was tabled in Senate about the kicking out of the 4 Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. When do we expect this process to kickstart?
Actually, from the order paper of today, what they are mainly focusing on is the approval of the names of those particular committees. But we are maybe going to see that maybe from next week, because the Senate is not going on recess, we're going to see maybe from next week what will come forth from the Senate side.
Grace Nganga, that is what we should be expecting in the political diary. A lot happening in Parliament, both at the National Assembly and the Senate. And now I want us to go to Kakamega County, where I understand Mumias Sugar Company workers are set to hold their first annual general meeting since resumption of operations by the giant miller. Let's now link up with our reporter, Alan Ochanda. Alan, good morning. Of course, a number of issues are expected to be addressed today. What are some of them?
Well, Ashley, yes, we understand that these are actually former workers who, according to them, when the giant miller had resumed its operations of crushing sugarcane and just producing sugar, they were supposed to be incorporated into the company data as workers, of course, because they say they had a long-running, contract with the company. And so today, they're actually having a sit-down here, sort of an annual general meeting, where they want to iron out some issues they really want to be addressed by the company, by, of course, the investor that took over the Mumias Sugar Company, of course, in a bid to resuscitate it. And so some of the issues they really want to be addressed include salary arrears, which they say they haven't been paid, yet the investor claims he has actually paid a section of the workers, yet those who claim to have been, those he claims to have actually paid, say no coin has hit their account. And also they want the full disclosure of the engagement and, of course, the leasing of the vast nucleus of the company. They say is actually sitting, of course, the nucleus is sitting on more than 10,000 acres. And so they really want full disclosure of how much was used to just lease that particular vast farm where it's actually been sustaining the company in as far as production of sugar is concerned. Also, they really want to ensure they streamline their working conditions here. All workers and the new workers, they really want their working conditions to be streamlined. Also, remember, they claim that some of the engineers have now been relegated to as low as drivers. Of course, really saying when they were working here, when the company was still alive, some of them were working in quite senior positions. But when the investor came here, they claim, of course, we are yet to ascertain that. They say some of them have now been relegated to junior positions. And so, Ashley, when we actually get into that meeting, we shall be bringing those issues live, because we understand that in the past few weeks we've seen the company really resuming the low-scale production of sugar. We've seen 50 kgs sacks of sugar being really produced from the company, but we've not seen those 2 kgs, 1 kg, of course, on the shelves in the supermarkets. And so it's actually on a low scale. We also understand that the Kenya Bureau of Statistics had already given them the nod to continue with the production of sugar. And so remember that in the past, we've seen the shrinking of the farms. Farmers' data has actually really shrunk, and so that really affected the data of farmers, and so really affecting the final production of sugar, because of course sugarcane is the main raw material of production of sugar. But actually that shall be captured when the meeting kickstarts at around 9:30, 10 a.m. thereabout. Ashley.
All right, Ochanda, we hope we get to